A systemic battle for Asian Americans is sometimes just being included.
When it comes to gathered data or even in the history books, the officer in charge of diversity and equity for the state's Office of Children and Family Services says this systemic racism can be dismantled if you know how the system was built.
Rachel Teedy spoke to Angelica Kang.
Angelica Kang's position came from a state mandate that said all agencies must have a diversity and an inclusion plan. But her office went the next step, creating a full-time position to tackle these problems head-on and, to an extent, right some of the wrongs of the past.
Being Chinese American is sometimes like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Angelica Kang says she's no stranger to racism. Macro and microaggressions are something she says she faces every day, and it was heightened during the pandemic.
Being Asian and wearing a mask at the beginning of all of this just was like putting a target on your back.
She says her position was created to help solve old wrongs and make the future more inclusive.
We as an agency know that in the time we've existed, we have contributed to systemic harms in the past.
Kang says there are still harms across today's society that need fixing.
One of the greatest examples of systemic exclusion would be with the disaggregation of Asian American data. So when we look at a lot of statistics out there about race, one of the first things you'll notice is that right now most of the conversation centers around black and white disparities.
And she says by not gathering data about Asian American communities, we are erasing them. Sometimes data is even lumped in with the white categories. That can skew averages.
But then we forget about, our other communities, our brothers and sisters who are struggling with accessing resources because they're getting clumped into this diaspora with inaccurate information. And so that's systemic. When you look at the systems that have to collect this data, that was created by a system. There are people and programs and software and data collection methodologies that have excluded the disaggregated data of Asian Americans.
She says even the acronym AAPI can be misleading, creating a false sense of a monolith.
The Asian American diaspora is huge. It consists of so many different communities, cultures, distinct languages, traditions, religions, and yet we group them all into this one giant acronym.
One acronym, a limited or non-existent data set, a real harm for Asian Americans.
So what can be done to fix this? We have that part of the story in an hour-long special this Saturday starting at 7 p.m. Reporting in studio with coverage you can trust, Rachel Teedy, News Channel 13.
All week, News Channel 13 will bring you stories related to the AAPI community. And as Rachel mentioned, we will also bring you an hour-long special on Saturday night at 7 right here on News Channel 13 and on Sunday on My 4 at 7 p.m.